Okay, so I'm here today with Nick Brown, former professional British tennis player and highly esteemed tennis coach. I've just got a list of about 8 to 10 questions, and I'll shoot now. So, hi today, Nick. How proud were you? Firstly, how proud were you to have been the winner of the National British Senior Singles Championship in 1983? How much could this victory have been a springboard for you to be confident in yourself enough to go and compete at tougher future tournaments as well?
Yeah, I think when you win a national title. I remember when I first won my first national title when I won the under 21 nationals in 1980
Yeah.
at my home club in Manchester. I beat my good friend and Davis Cup colleague Jeremy Bates. We played a lot of Davis Cup together and a lot of big tournaments all around the world, and obviously including French Open, Wimbledon, and also made the Masters final equivalent to that anyway in Stuttgart.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so that was a big moment for me. I think when you become national champion because you feel that you're one of the best players in your country. Simple.
Yeah.
Um, so to do that in the seniors in 1983 was also a terrific feeling, and it gives you a lot of self belief and confidence that to spend the whole week, every day, kind of executing your game, and to be able to come out and hold that trophy is something very, very special.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure, like you said there, it's something you'll never really forget to this day. So, yeah, it must have been a great springboard for the rest of your career. Interestingly, my research suggests that there was a time in your career, I don't know if this is completely true or not, where you were coaching in France and Belgium. Is this right? Yeah.
True. I shortly, probably the following year, basically, I kind of had a bit of a crossroads in my tennis career at the
Yeah.
age of 22. Kind of didn't really have any kind of real support or direction from the governing body or
Okay.
anybody at the time, and financially was obviously, as you know, is costly affair when you're traveling the world trying to build a ranking, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're relying on day to day, week to week to try and earn enough money to survive, really.
Not easy.
And so I I just felt I was my game and my career had kind of gone to hit a bit of a crossroads, and so therefore I felt I needed a break. So I went to teach tennis. A friend of mine was teaching squash in Belgium,
Okay.
and when I went over there a week later, I'd organised to have a job
Yeah.
coaching, and then I used to play in the local league and play money tournaments. A little bit similar to a bridge tour here, but in Belgium at
All right. How
weekend
interesting.
because
Yeah.
you could earn extra money. Then I went to France to play some tournaments. So I realized that in France there was much more money to be earned, and so I went to I got a coaching job at Lille University,
Oh, very good.
where I coached there for 4 days a week, and then at the weekends I used to play money tournaments, and then I ended up playing for that club subsequently in the inter club league in France for 5 years. So we were a little bit like a non-league team starting in Division Four,
Yeah.
and then we actually ended up being in Champions League
Wow.
in 5 year period. So that was a really special experience to be part of a team, even a foreign team.
Yeah.
Of course, living in France for a year was quite beneficial because obviously I improved my French, so that helps.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
in 1984, we won the senior doubles title
Okay.
alongside David Felgate, who used to coach Tim Henman.
Yeah.
I used to coach Tim Henman, ironically enough, when he was 11, 12, part of the David Lloyd scholarship scheme, and again when he was 17.
Yeah.
Um, so we won nationals, and then at that time, if you won national championships, you automatically got walk on into Wimbledon.
Oh, wow.
And so at the time, I was at home. Unfortunately, my father passed away, and I was looking after my mum and stuff, and so I was back in Manchester. I was just kind of working at Marks and Spencer's, filling shelves basically.
Okay.
and practicing a little bit at the weekends. And
Yeah,
then 6 weeks before Wimbledon, I thought, well, I've got to try and get myself a little bit sharper, ready for
sure.
Wimbledon. And then that's when, so I did that. I used to work, do a morning shift from 8 or 2, and then after that, I used to go and practice at the local club with the best players I could find at the time,
Yeah,
top county players in the area, whatever. And then 6 weeks later, we came to Wimbledon and we beat the world champions, Siguzan Flak, who was seeded number 3 at Wimbledon.
unbelievable.
So these things, when you start beating top players, you're still thinking that actually you still have a good enough game to compete
Yes.
at a level where you can make money. And
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
was in the back of my mind. So at the end of that year, I said to Mum, I said, look, I need to kind of go back to tennis now. So I was in conversation with David Lloyd. David Lloyd had just set up his first club a couple of years before that at Heathrow,
Mm.
and he offered me a job. So I went down to coach for David for 3 years before I decided to go back full time on the tennis tour when I was the age of 27.
Okay. Okay. Really interesting. Loads of great insight there. Yeah. So, in your time in France, I'm just interested to know, lots of people, it's sort of widely viewed in the tennis world that in the French tennis community, sort of, it's the tennis clubs are very active. Everyone picks up a racket, parents, children of all ages, and it's a great community feel. Would you say that that rings true? And also, if it does, with your experience in the game, why do you think France has seen so little success on the Grand Slam front, not having a French Open winner since Yannick Noah in 1983? Why do you think that could be if participation levels are so high?
That's good. Well, you know your tennis history, that's for sure, because I remember
Yes.
that match. You're too young, but I remember that match,
Yeah.
Yannick Noah winning at Roland Garros. And funny enough, the French Federation was so desperate for a home winner
Yeah.
that they actually changed the conditions to suit him because
No
he
way.
was very much a fast court player a little bit in terms of he used to come forward a lot. So they took a little bit of clay off the top surface of the court, made it a little bit quicker. They changed the ball to make the ball quicker through the air.
Yeah.
And then, so they did everything to try and aid that process, of course. And then Philippe Chatrier, who was at the time in charge of the French Federation,
Yeah.
he had this vision and to grow the game, and they did amazingly. And obviously, I'm a great admirer in terms of what they've done in France because there's a couple of things they did really well. One is they managed to get tennis into schools.
Yeah.
So everybody between the age of 5 and 7 at schools were introduced to tennis. So they had
Okay.
a one term of tennis, maybe like kind of mini tennis introductory thing, just to get them involved, and then they would signpost those kids into local club,
Yeah.
and that's how they started to grow the base
Okay.
of tennis. And obviously, in anybody, you need somebody really high profile to inspire them, and
Yeah.
they spent a lot of time building a infrastructure of tournaments, domestic tournaments, where it would keep a lot of players in the game, even though they weren't playing maybe top professional tennis.
Yeah.
It was still ranked 400, whatever. And at one stage they had 40 players inside 400 in the world, right?
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
that depth, of course, goes down because as a junior coming up, you're always kind of playing against good players, and therefore
Yeah.
you're gonna learn from that, and that's gonna raise your game automatically. So if you're to supersede these people, that you've got to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and so that was, I think, very inspirational. And like I said before, what they did also is when players kind of retired from the game,
Yeah.
they found a kind of a way in for those guys to then integrate their experience back into the system they have. And it
Okay.
may be not directly working for the federation, but maybe something else.
Yeah.
But they kind of always seem to encourage and retain that knowledge. And that's one thing in the UK that in British tennis, we haven't been very good at that in terms of, bringing people back into the game as they should. We've lost a lot of good coaches,
Yeah.
especially on the performance level, to to private sector and to other organizations.
Okay, yeah, yeah, it's very interesting what you say about British tennis there. Okay, so I think also from my research, I've seen that you work with lots of talented tennis players in your time. You mentioned you worked with Tim Henman there earlier. I'm sort of keen to know how special a talent as a young player do you think he was? He's generally widely regarded as kind of up there as the best players, one of the greatest players in British tennis. While you're coaching him, do you think he had the ability to make Grand Slam semi-finals as he did? And also, do you think that some other aspects of his game, apart from the legendary ability to move and volley at the net, were overlooked?
Well, having coached him and been responsible for his development between the age
Yeah,
of 11, 13, and 17, I would say, of course, we did a great job.
yeah.
But joking aside, he was one of 12 boys that were
Okay.
part of a scholarship scheme,
Oh, wow.
and they went to Reed School. So David had this vision of actually setting up, a group of players that would push each other. And
Yeah,
so he actually, in conjunction with the Daily Mail, he did a national SIFT to invite players down with their
yeah.
parents for us to assess for 3 days. And of course, Tim was one of those boys that we selected for the scheme. Ironically, out of those boys, when he first started, he was probably about ninth in the pecking order.
Wow.
Okay. There were another two boys there. You wouldn't know him, but a guy called James Bailey. He was a multiple national junior champion.
Okay.
He was big and strong, so a little bit more mature than the rest of the guys. So obviously
Yeah.
in tennis, that's a big advantage, especially when you're younger.
Yes.
He went on to win the Australian Open Junior final.
Wow.
Okay, so he was
Yes.
played a good level. I think he got to around 400, and then he kind of lost his way in tennis. But and then we had Jamie Delgado, who you're probably well aware
Yeah.
of. He
Yeah.
used to coach Jamie Murray. He's now working with Jack Draper. And he got to around 120 in the world.
Very
He
good.
played Davis Cup for Great Britain, and also he won the World Junior Orange Bowl at the
Oh,
age of
wow.
14.
Yeah.
And then Tim. So Tim kind of obviously superseded all those achievements later on in his career. Ironically, as a junior, he didn't win anything, which is
Wow.
highly unusual, right? Because normally, if you're going to be a full-time player, surely you would have won, national
Yeah.
titles, did ever, and he actually won nationals when he was 18. And then after that, his kind of rise between going professional and making top 50, he did it in about 4 years, which I don't think, unless you're a kind of, talented superstar like
Yeah.
Alcaraz or Sinner or something like that, Federer, you can't really make that transition, I don't think, any quicker than that, because it takes that amount of time, that experience, that to gain the knowledge, and
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
the belief that you are one of the top players in the world. And of course, we all know in men's tennis that the physicality has changed quite a lot. And
Yeah.
actually, as his build naturally physicality. He was quite still slight
Yeah.
and underdeveloped at age of 18. And so therefore that was only one of the reasons why he took a little bit longer. And also his game, like you say, was a very highly serve volley, chip charge coming
Yeah.
in. That's the way he played when he was a youngster.
Mm.
Okay. And the reason why we kind of course, you work on elements to try and add different skills to that when you're working with a young player. But his natural game style was that. So number one is we didn't want to discourage that, because actually we felt that he had extremely good hands, good feel, and
Yeah.
what he did by being playing that game style for so long, instinctively he actually learning when to come in, when not to come in, where to approach to, what to cover. And of course, as you get bigger and stronger and you grow, it
Yeah.
becomes easier to cover the net, okay, because you have bigger reach. As a
Definitely.
youngster, you don't have so much success of that, because obviously it's more difficult to be able to cover the court, especially when you're at the net.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. I'm going to ask about the Davis Cup a little bit now because I think that was quite an important part of your career in some senses.
Yes.
It's widely known as sort of like the World Cup of tennis amongst knowledgeable tennis fans. It was a really important part of your career. So as well as playing this tournament amongst fellow prestigious British players, playing to a varying degree of success, how much respect do you have personally for the Great British team that were able to go on and lift the trophy for the first time in nearly 80 years? And also, do you think that the current structure of the LTA, level of playing talent, and sort of the design from top to bottom of the LTA allows that future success to happen again sometime soon?
That was a big, long question, that
Yeah,
one.
sorry. Yeah. There's different parts to it. Yeah.
No, Davis Cup for me, of course, like you say, if you ask any sportsman to be
Yeah.
able to play for your country at any level,
Yeah.
okay, but also, like we're alluding to, Davis Cup in tennis is kind of the World Cup of tennis. So that was very special for me to be able to achieve that. And that was probably the main motivation for me to make a comeback after
Yeah.
having 5 years out of competitive tennis, to come back at the age of 27, to kind of give everything up financially, everything, to take the the risk, as it were, or gamble of actually coming back and achieving that dream. But I was so driven,
Yeah.
and it meant so much to me that that was why I came back and played, and I was lucky enough to play. I made my debut at the age of 27, one of the oldest probably players to do that, with Andrew Castle, who
Yeah.
was successful player, gold top 100 player. I played a lot of doubles with Andy, good friends with him, and obviously he went to a famous career in on TV and
Yeah.
commentating, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was special. And then, of course, I also played singles in Davis Cup. I managed to be selected for this tie against France.
Yeah.
We played at Queen's Club.
Nice.
It wasn't a particularly enjoyable tie in terms of the result, but I actually really embraced the opportunity to play singles also for my country rather than doubles, just doubles. So I played against Henri Leconte and Guy Forget. They were a phenomenal team at the time,
Yeah.
and they're really just too good for us, really,
Okay.
on paper. But they actually won the Davis Cup the year after. Funny enough,
Oh, wow.
so they it was a really special time, and of course for me, when Great Britain won the Davis Cup in 2015,
Yeah.
was an exceptional thing to be able to see those guys and how much it meant to them, because being an ex-player yourself, you know that emotion.
Yeah.
My last match I played was actually in my home club in Manchester, funny enough, when we
Okay.
beat Austria in
Nice.
1991 to go back to the World Group.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we beat Thomas Muster
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
whoever he's playing. I can't remember the guy he's playing with, but at the time, we defeated them in Manchester, and that was my last Davis Cup match, and that
Wow.
that was probably the most one of the most proud moments of my career. So yeah, watching these guys lift the trophy in Belgium
Yeah.
was incredible and a great achievement. And I just felt then, when Murray then became world number one the year after.
Yeah.
His brother, I think, had already been world number one, or was thereabouts, right,
Yeah.
at the same time. So we had a bit of a golden age of British tennis, really, especially in the men's game. Konsa was top 10 in the world,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I feel that's where the LTA really lost a big opportunity to
Okay.
really open up the game
Yeah.
and make a real opportunity for people to be part of the tennis journey, whatever
Yeah.
level they got to. We might not win the Davis Cup for a few more years. I think the guys we have now have an opportunity, if they're all fit,
Yeah.
with Draper, J.K. Fernley. I used to work with those guys
Okay.
as part of the LTA when I worked for Talent ID, working with those guys. I captained them, actually, ironically, when they won the European Junior Team Championship,
Yeah.
which the boys funny enough, this year I've just done the same thing. The
Oh
first
wow.
time that's kind of been achieved since then when they won it. So uh, you have a group of players like that, and I think then you have an opportunity to build something special. But like I say, having won that, we kind of
Yeah.
lost the whole momentum on the
Yeah.
back of Murray being world number one, his brother as well being number one, to actually
Yeah.
really kind of make tennis, a top five sport in the UK,
Yeah.
where people would want to go and play tennis, you know what I mean, and encourage the people in the system more, even at a lower level, because it's funny enough, particularly in tennis, you never know when you see a young player how
Mm.
good they can or can't be.
Sure.
So therefore you have to have a big base, a wide pyramid,
Yeah.
and so therefore you can build towards the kids who actually really are able to play professionally.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, the LTA maybe missing an opportunity there. Should really struck while the iron was hot, but it's just circumstance, really. Yeah, I'd agree with that. A bit more of a personal one for you here. Would you say your victory against the famous victory against Ivanisevic at Wimbledon in 1991 would be for you your individual highlight of your career? You know, he was a semi-finalist at Wimbledon the year before. He was a big server that got regularly towards the end of Grand Slam finals or close to. Or do you think there are other parts of your career that are maybe overlooked? This win did put you into a sort of legendary status within the sport because of the disparity in ranking and your comebacks, which was very, very impressive. Would you say for you it's a standout moment, or do you think there are other moments that are on a level definitely and are just not quite appreciated in the same way?
Yeah, obviously even Ivanisevic is probably the most famous one that
Yeah,
people, if they can remember them, yeah, that it's 34 years ago now, so it's a long time ago.
yeah,
Funny enough, I can remember it. It was last year,
yeah. I bet.
playing on court number 13 at Wimbledon, which is now the equivalent of court number two there.
Wow.
It's on the same kind of site, and there's nothing more special than obviously playing in your home Grand Slam. As a kid growing up, I watched Wimbledon. I went to Wimbledon. The first time I went there was to kind of I watched Bjorn Borg play actually in the
Oh wow.
semi-final when he first won it in 1976, and I came back from Wimbledon thinking, you know what, I want to play at Wimbledon. I want to be a
Yeah,
professional tennis player. Of course, when you're 12 years old, you're not quite sure how that's going to happen, right? But that kind of that dream aspiration was kind of born a little bit. That was a motivation for me.
yeah,
And obviously, each year I used to watch Wimbledon, and of course, then to go and play there for the first time is highly emotional because when you walk out on the court, and my first Wimbledon was 1982 when I played singles,
okay,
and basically it's changed so much now in terms of player support. I mean, literally, you were on your own. You
yeah,
had no coach, you had nobody kind of running you through the process of what happens when your match is called. You kind of fight your way through the crowd to get to, because that stage there was no security. The
wow.
security were only for the top players, not lower ranked players. So it took me about 15 minutes to get to the actual court. So the
Oh
time you
wow.
get there, you're kind of a little bit flustered and kind of, you're so nervous anyway.
Yeah,
And I was playing a guy called Victor Amaya,
okay,
who at the time, the year before or 2 years before that, nearly beat Bjorn Borg in 5 sets. He was one of the biggest servers in the world at the time, big
yeah.
American guy. And I was so nervous that in the knockup, I missed three balls.
Oh
Literally hit
no way.
three balls into the crowd. Of course, I had my family watching, friends, whatever, and you just kind of so many emotions running through your mind that what has brought you, what you've gone through to come to this position, this moment in time
Yeah,
where it's your time to now play what you've dreamed about. And that's where you kind of learn from that situation how to manage that. There was no kind of guidance, or there was no psychologist, there was no kind of mentoring going on, which it seems a bit crazy now. But
yeah.
anyway, that was the process. And so when I fast track back to 1991 when I played Goran, I actually had beaten Goran Ivanisevic in doubles
Okay.
that year at the Australian Open.
Yeah.
He was playing with Peter Korda. Peter Korda actually won the Australian Open,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and they were seeded number three. We beat them first round, and I made the quarterfinals that year. So
Wow.
I then played Goran the week before Wimbledon in
Yeah.
doubles again because my doubles ranking was quite high. I was 25 in the world.
It's great.
So I played him. We played him in the final at Manchester. We lost that occasion, but I had faced his serve quite often
Mm.
in a short period of time. So I kind of you can actually just have a read where he was going to serve, particularly when he used to serve from the juice side out wide to your forehand, because he would put the ball in a different slight position
Yeah.
on the ball toss. He was
Okay.
still serving 145 miles an hour, so you just, but it gave you a little bit of a sign of where he was going to serve, and tactically in that match, I had a clear definition of what he needed to do to beat him.
Yeah.
And of course, it was an amazing day, incredible feeling to beat one of the favourites at Wimbledon. And that is a very special memory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it must have been amazing and really interesting. I think actually a lot of the things I've been working on recently with my coach Nigel Buckman has been to do with the ball toss with service. So it's actually incredibly important, sort of how right you get it in the moment. And if it's too far in front, if it's slightly towards the left or the right, abort it straight away because serving is not the easiest part of tennis. But there are players who are so good at serving that they can fire it off at any moment. So to get it right, if it's not your biggest strength, is really, really important. Yeah. I think another really talented player you worked with was Lukasz Kubot, the Polish player. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was able to reach the top of the world rankings in doubles, and he also had victories at the Australian Open and Wimbledon in doubles. What do you think some of the key aspects of his game were to make him reach the heights of the sport, really? I think his career was pretty long. It was like 21 years, sort of thing. So, as well as what you think some of the key aspects of him reaching the top were, how did he stay in the game for so long? Did he train harder than others? Was his dedication greater? Did he have a different mentality? What would you say from coaching him, Nick?
Well, I first came across him when I was invited by Polish Tennis
Okay.
to uh, go to Poland and be part of their system. At the
Yeah.
stage, they were a little bit confused in terms of how they were going to attain players climbing the rankings. I think at the time they didn't have anybody ranked inside the top 300, men
Okay.
or women. This is 2005,
Yeah.
and they asked me to be their Davis Cup coach. And so, working with the Davis Cup team, of which Kubot was part of that team, he was by far at that time number one player.
Yeah.
But he's like I say, his ranking was quite low. They had some good doubles players. Fistenberg, Makowski got to number three in the world. I worked
Yeah.
with them for literally 7 years. Those guys. They got to finally ATP finals. They finally US Open.
Yeah.
They won quite a few ATP tournaments. And what we looked on and trying to raise the level of the other players around them, and obviously focus on a couple of the juniors coming through. One of those juniors was called Jerzy Janowicz,
Okay.
who actually became number 14 in the world.
Pretty good.
And of course, nothing better to push anybody is when they're pushing each other,
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
especially on their own nationality, right? Because
Mhm.
there's a little bit more competitiveness
Yeah.
there in terms of they want to be number one in their country, and that had a great effect on Kubot. He actually started to really lock into what he needed to do.
Yeah.
I think before, not disrespect to him, but he felt he was good enough.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good enough being at 350 is not going to earn you any money, right? So he had to raise his bar, and he was always a really good athlete. He
Yeah.
he always physically looked after himself. He was quick. He was sharp. He then started to work on his tennis side, his tennis skills, his
Mm.
volley, his serve, because those things were a weak area a little bit,
Yeah.
and also his backhand. So, and he took them on board, and subsequently became world number one. And of course, all those guys, their success with Janovic and Fisimokowski, Ravanska sisters,
Rwanska. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that inspired the next generation. And in 2018, I was asked to then reconnect with Polish tennis and
Okay.
try and help some of the youngsters coming through. And
Yeah.
I was at the French Open actually doing some commentary work for one of the channels, and I
Nice.
was asked to go and assess some of their juniors, and one of the juniors was Iga Swiatek.
Yeah.
And so then I started working, helping Iga. She didn't win the French Open juniors that year. She made semi-final,
Mm.
and then I'm a member at Wimbledon, so I went to the committee and asked them for a wild card for her in the junior event.
Yeah.
Because her junior ranking at the time, ironically, wasn't good enough to get in.
Oh, wow.
So they obviously saw her results, what she was doing, whatever. So it was it was a no-brainer really to give her that opportunity.
Sure.
And she went and won the event,
Yeah.
right? In 2018, and I could see then, having spent a couple of weeks with her, understanding the way she thinks, her determination, seeing that focus, that professionalism in somebody so young,
Yeah.
and ability. The one thing that stood out for me, her ability to go onto a surface that is alien to her. She'd never played on grass before.
Yeah.
She had 2 days practice. So every match she played, I would set her a little goal to try and do something slightly different, but do
Okay.
it better in a
Yeah.
certain way. And she took those things on board, maybe tactically, the way she was moving, her position on return of serve, using the slice a little bit more with the slice serve. All aspects, of course, playing on a grass court, you kind of need that in your repertoire to be successful. And she took them on board and won the tournament. And so that, for me in itself, was telling me that actually his person who is tactically astute, she's
Yeah.
aware, and she has ability to process information and immediately implement that
Mm.
on a match court,
Yeah.
which a lot of players can't do that. They
Okay.
need repetition of a lot of practice to have the confidence to actually allow themselves to do that, right? So
Yeah.
she did it straight away. And of course, 2 years later, she went on to win the French Open for the first time.
Yeah.
And she's now cemented herself in the history of tennis. She won 6 Grand Slams, and of course,
Yeah.
this year, her winning Wimbledon,
Yeah.
was very special for me because I helped her. I worked with her for 4 years, and as a coach, when you're helping players, of course, you always dream one day that actually maybe you have somebody who can actually win Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And I was very honored to be able to watch her do that from the members box, funny enough, at Wimbledon this year, and be able to celebrate that success with her and her family at the Champions Dinner, which takes place on
Oh,
the
yeah.
Sunday after Wimbledon. No other Grand Slam does that, of course. Wimbledon is very unique, very special, that they make you a member at the club, an honorary member. You obviously, you meet royalty while you're there. And then, of course, being Wimbledon champion has a different meaning and a different experience than anything else.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, I'm sure from a personal point of view, it would have been very gratifying when she was lifting the trophy. It must have felt like she was touching the Holy Grail almost after all the years of working with her. So,
Correct.
yeah, it must have been an amazing feeling. Yeah, interesting with Swiatek. I mean, she like as you alluded to, she's won many a French Open titles so far in a relatively young career, or not a long career so far. Do you think that she's so talented on the surface? I'm not saying she could win the same amount of titles, but she could achieve similar dominance to what Nadal did at Roland Garros. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, I mean, she was brought up in clay, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, when I first went to practice with her in Warsaw, she would often come to Cambridge, which is where I live, and
yeah,
she would train at our local club and spar with some of the Cambridge students, the guys that I kind of lined up to train with her as well. So, but when I went to train with her at her club
mm,
in Warsaw, and I always like to hit with the player I'm working with because I like to feel what kind of ball is coming at me
okay,
from what they're doing, right? And so we start off on the clay, and as you do when you're warming up, you start off in the box, playing nice
yeah,
and softly, just getting a feel for the ball. Then you progress back to the baseline.
yeah,
She didn't miss a ball for 22 minutes.
wow,
Okay. All right. So that in itself straight away is telling you also the focus, the mindset in terms of determination to get in position, focus, concentration, feeling the ball, and the way she moves on clay is just
Yeah,
natural. It's a bit like say Rafa. It's like for them, it's like going home. Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so and that's why it's been difficult for I think Iga mentally to adapt to winning Wimbledon.
Mm,
She's probably I think had a chance a few years ago, and she lost to Svitolina in the quarterfinal, but.
okay.
Um, it's taking that next step. And I think the challenges for are slightly different now. It's not so much that it's changed because you've got obviously some new players coming through. You've got
Yeah,
Coco Gauff
yeah,
dominating, Sabalenka at the moment is dominating with the serve. Um, you've got Mira Andreeva, who really for me is probably a good opportunity to be a young number one
yeah.
soon.
I agree.
She's lost a bit of confidence this last 12 months, but I think once she gets back on the winning ways, she's going to be difficult because she's got everything. And I think Iga, I think if she is going to be still competitive, and it seems crazy to say that, a little bit disrespectful, but I know her game so well.
Yeah,
At that level for the next over this next period in her career, then
yeah,
she has to add things to her game that is going to allow her to do that because as we know in tennis the game is always progressing, it's moving on, and
yeah,
players get stronger, they add things to the game. You only have to look at the men's tennis to do that with Federer, Nadal, Djokovic,
yeah.
the longevity of their career. Part of it has been down to the ability to take things on within their game and make them bigger, develop new skills, new
Mm.
weapons, and therefore I think she's at a stage where she needs to do that pretty quickly.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. So that's pretty much it. I just have one more question, which is a bit of a jovial one. Research also showed that apparently you used to travel to Wimbledon on a Harley Davidson with a friend from Ealing. Is this true? Can you confirm or deny?
Well, it is. It is. I have a picture at home on my wall of my good friend Victor.
Yeah,
Um, he's half Polish, so that was a little bit connection. And
nice.
ironically, he obviously just had a Harley Davidson because he enjoyed riding a bike, right? But when you're traveling from Ealing to Wimbledon, as you know, during the tournament, the
Yeah,
traffic can be horrendous. Okay, and so actually traveling on a motorbike is pretty effective because it
yeah,
doesn't matter. Journey time is probably much the same every time. And so that's why we started doing it. And of course, if he knew me pretty well, so if he sensed that I was a little bit nervous, then he would go a little bit quicker on the bike,
yeah,
Roehampton Hill, just to make sure I got rid of a few nerves before I got to the tennis.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks very much for your time today, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.